Hello everyone, good morning. Hope you've had a good start to the week. Today is 25th March 2024, and we could not do the weekly market analysis yesterday. I was a little busy, couldn't take out time. That is my bad because I should be able to take out time for work. Uh, but here I am today. So what we're gonna do today is it's basically gonna be one video that's gonna do dollar, Swiss franc, and yen, and that pretty much sums up all the pairs that I generally like to trade. So I like to trade Aussie against US dollar, yen, or Swiss franc. I like to trade Kiwi against them. I like to trade CAD against them. Uh, like to trade Euro against mostly them, pound, dollar, and pound yen. So it's generally going to cover all the currency pairs that I'm generally looking at. First of all, let's take a look at the economic calendar. Today is Monday, not a lot of stuff happening. Uh, New home sales in dollar, that's during New York. Other than that, there's nothing much that is happening. And then tomorrow, we have quite a bit of not quite a bit of news. Actually, it's durable goods and CB consumer confidence tomorrow on dollar. And then on Wednesday, again, not a lot of stuff is happening in terms of news events and all. Then on Thursday you have pound GDP and you have dollar GDP and you have CAD GDP and Chicago PMI. So Thursday could be busy, and then Friday is a holiday. It's Good Friday. Next week Monday is going to be a holiday too for the Easter Monday. So it's a couple of holidays coming up now. Anyway, today again, not trading because not a lot of stuff is happening. But let's just go through the pairs that we want to look at in the longer run. Uh, it was a confusing week, although there was a lot of news happening, a lot of movement happening, but did not do as expected in terms of dollar, at least, right? In terms of Swiss franc, in terms of pound, it did do what it was expected to do. But in terms of dollar, it did, with dollar interest rate, a lot of dollar weakness came in. I traded that weakness, and then it just turned around for dollar strength the very next day. Uh, and if you take a look at the price action, it does make a little bit of sense for dollar to become strong. But overall, that's not how it should be. If um, a major news event takes the price in some direction, the price should be able to hold that direction for at least a week or so. In this case, just turned around. In other cases, like Swiss franc and yen and pound, you'd see that this what I'm saying did hold true. So, talking about Aussie dollar, as we discussed last week, that this buyer is of course scary, and this buyer did buy from down here. This is a daily time frame, so it takes a bit of time to set up. This buyer did buy from down here, went all the way up to there, but then this seller that we talked about last Sunday, if you remember, this seller still there, pushed the price harder and lower. Right? It tried to make a lower low. It could not make a lower low. But at this point in time, as long as I am below this, I cannot look to buy, unless of course it ranges for today and then it breaks through and then tests. So of course you have room to travel all the way up to there. But I'm not too sure what Aussie dollar wants to do on this time frame. On daily, of course, you're still inside this buyer. So unless you break through this, that we actually did on Kiwi dollar, I'll show you where there is no chance of sells on this chart coming in. So at this point in time, it's going to trade between these areas, could continue to buy, could turn into a sell. But for it to continue to sell and for me to make money off of that sell, I'm going to need the price to go through this and then go lower. Gonna move on to euro dollar. More or less the same thing as Aussie dollar. Of course, if you take a look at here, you've gone through what the interest rate did. So this buy that you see, this one big buy candle, is from interest rate. But as we discussed last week Sunday, you're still inside this buyer, right? It's just one buy. started here, went all the way up to there, still inside it. So it could uh, on a smaller time frame, it could go through this, because this is the last bit of sell. It could go through this, pull back to continue to go higher. If it breaks through all of this and then pull back to continue to go lower. At this point in time, it does not look like a sell at the moment, because the reason why, although the momentum is of course with the seller, but you're still inside this buy. So I cannot look to sell it. Look where you are in the context of the bigger picture. You're at demand, you're uh, at where the big buy started, so at a support, so definitely cannot sell it here. That's what I'm trying to say. uh, I'm not saying a sell cannot come. It can come. I cannot sell it here. Reason why? Because you're right at where the big buys began, right? Could take some time to turn around to turn into a buy. Could take some time to turn around to turn into a sell. But at this point in time, nothing really interesting. Pound dollar, again, more or less the same thing. It tried to go through this buy. Looks like it has failed. So let's see what the price action does further on. You cannot sell it here because of where the price is in the bigger context of picture. You cannot buy here because of the momentum that's been coming in on dollar strength. So just sidelines. Need to see what price action shows in the coming future. Uh, Not really convinced, because for pound dollar to be a buy, you need to go through this. For pound dollar to be a sell, well, it's gotta come up all the way to turn around to go lower. So it's obviously gonna take some time, because if you take a look at the 240 seller, right, I'm not convinced that this is the last bit of sell, so I'm gonna hold on to this as the last bit of sell that went all the way down to there. So it could just pull back today and then go lower. Who knows? We're gonna have to see what the price action shows us, because the recent momentum, of course, is towards dollar strength. But so far, this is the third dollar that we're looking at, and look in the bigger context of the pictures, it's at a very interesting and critical area. So let's see, right? Moving forward, Kiwi dollar, on the other hand, is the only dollar so far that we've been through who on this time frame has a brand new seller. We have a brand new seller, so I'm gonna need to see the prices slowly come up into hereabouts, roll over, then go lower. This looks good for the continuation of sells. Why? Because this is a brand new seller, right? Went through all of this support, equal resistance. You have a new supply. Uh, yeah, and went through all of this too. So this looks good for the continuation of dollar strength. So far, the only dollar that looks like the dollar is going to be strong. Here's another one. So the second dollar now, as last week we discussed that it's going to continue to buy, did continue to buy with Swiss franc interest rate basically. So prices come all the way down to hereabouts, a nice bit of pullback into these areas, roll over to go higher. Second dollar that wants to buy so far, right? And then US dollar CAD again. Uh, we've been discussing the buy that should come in on US dollar CAD. Initially, the sell came in. I traded this sell and then it turned around. Now it's at a point where you cannot buy because of where it's at. You cannot sell because of the momentum with the buys, right? So dollar strength, recent is dollar strength, of course, but then where you are at in the bigger picture, you're at a supply. I'm sorry, yeah, you're at a supply where the price last time came up and shot all the way down to there, so you cannot buy it here unless, of course, it breaks through and then pulls back to go higher. Uh, Dollar yen has a new buyer. It has a new buyer, but coming from all of sorry coming from all of this and then buys, it couldn't go through this, but has gone through this. Could range a little bit, choose its direction, either high or low, and then we'll see what it does. as of right now, it's a bit confusing. Although the recent territory is that of a buyer, but I am a little confused on where this wants to go. All right. This was about dollar. Let's take a look at Swiss franc. Okay, so again, Aussie Swiss franc, this buyer's holding came with the interest rate. Holdings probably rolling over right now. Not sure. Yeah. Okay, so this could be a trade for today or tomorrow. You have the return of the buyer. Check. After it turned people to the wrong side of the market, let me just get rid of. Okay, you have the return of the buyer, last bit of sell, you have a higher high, you have a higher low. Now, I'm not too sure where the price needs to come to continue to go higher, uh, because the last bit of supply and demand that could have reacted was hereabouts, did not really react towards the sell side. So I'm not sure where the price should go. Should test to continue to go higher. It could just continue to go higher right now, but I'm not too sure. But it is setting up for a buy at the moment. Aussie Swiss franc, yeah, it's setting up for a buy. And keep in mind that these buys came in with the Swiss interest rate, right? Keep that in mind. Okay, moving forward. Uh, CAD Swiss franc. Oh, we've been discussing this buy. Didn't really give an opportunity. Maybe here. Let's see. Nah. Could not have traded here. The sell was too short. But if you've been through the video that was posted last week, you would know that we've been looking for buys on this. The buys did come in, massive buys. Now it's still a buy, and just like Aussie Swiss franc could be rolling over for a buy, but the difference here is that you're still inside this seller, right? So it could do one more sell, then buy. If it goes through this, then a pullback would be for buys. It is setting up for buys again because this buyer, no higher high, has turned people to the sell side. It's probably the return of the buyer, tests into hereabouts, and then goes. Setting up for a buy. Dollar Swiss franc, we've already discussed, should buy. Euro Swiss franc looks exactly the same as Aussie Swiss franc and CAD Swiss franc. Uh, is trying to turn around for a buy, but it is a higher time frame trade, so it could take its sweet as time to go. We'll see if we get an opportunity. Pound Swiss franc looks to be more or less the same, although pound is pretty weak after the interest rate, but it does look more or less the same, turning people to the wrong side, coming around, could go higher. Kiwi Swiss franc, although Kiwi is pretty weak, but looks like it is turning around from hereabouts on the daily. Yeah, you're in the range. So this should also buy. And then we have Swiss franc yen. So yen is so weak, uh, but Swiss franc still looks like it's weaker than yen, right? If you remember the last week's video, sells from hereabouts, sells did come in from hereabouts because this is a brand new seller. Remember, we talked about this being a buyer that held, then a brand new seller comes in. So it can't just continue to push through. This is a brand new seller and it could continue to go down too. But yen is super weak at the moment too, so not really sure what to do with this. Okay, this was about Swiss franc, and then the last one we're going to do today is yen. Now, if you take a look at the daily time frame on yen, it's basically correlated. It's doing more or less the exact same thing on euro yen, where this buy is trying to come up from this support. CAD yen, where this buy is trying to come up from this support. Swiss franc yen, not really sure what it wants to do. Aussie yen, where this buy is trying to come up from this support. Pound yen, where this buy is trying to come up from this support. Kiwi yen, where this buy is trying to come up from this support. And dollar yen is doing its own thing. So it's basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yens that are doing more or less the same thing. I would be interested in selling yen so far, but I need to see uh, some sort of rolling over a new buyer being introduced into the markets, because this point in time you're inside this range probably, and it is probably this seller that is holding. Same is the case on all of the other yens. You're inside this range, it's probably this seller that is holding. Aussie yen inside this range, probably this seller that was holding or this seller that is holding, but still have a lot of room to go north. So if a strong buyer comes in, a pullback to that would be a nice buy. Kiwi yen, more or less the same thing. All right. Uh, Pretty much about it for today, guys. Not gonna make a very long video. I'm not gonna go through all the other currencies because these are mostly the currencies that I do like to trade. So just, you know, next week onwards we'll start doing the same thing again. Right? Cheers, guys. Stay tuned for more.